Hi, welcome to a new video. This is definitely a different type of content that I usually make, but I really can't stand keeping this thing only for me. As a big fan of horror movies and games, Alan Wake and Longlegs definitely an inviting rabbit hole to explore. Please leave a like or subscribe if you like this type of content. The intention behind this video is to show you how much of these two use the similar aspects of their source materials and simple sides, not to create a negative statement about copying or anything like that. I love both of them. Just to tell you that I will simplify Alan Wake 1 and 2 as just Alan Wake to make things easy. This video is spoiler heavy for both Alan Wake and Longlegs. And another warning, this video includes some flashing lights. Feel free to close the video or just listen to the audio. Now, let's dive in. Months ago, I was surfing the internet looking for something fun to watch or read. I directed my mouse to open YouTube and scrolled through all of the videos that got recommended to me. I scrolled and scrolled until something caught my eye. There's a video titled "Every Year There Is Another." I immediately clicked the video. As I'm watching the video, my head keeps asking questions. What is this? Some kind of ARG? A new web series? An analog horror? What's with the cryptic title? I have no answers. Days later, new videos keep coming up. Not so long, we got the official title, Longlegs. Months later, I went to see Longlegs, and as I'm watching the movie, I feel weirdly familiar with the vibes and everything. I try to connect things as the movie plays, and then my brain clicks. Alan Wake. This is Alan Wake, I said. I no longer feel scared or anything. Rather, I feel excited. I am a big fan of Alan Wake. Seeing these similar things in the game appear in a movie got my head spinning. How many things that is similar to Alan Wake that I can't pinpoint? Does Longlegs have the same source material as Alan Wake? Why are Lee and Saga basically the same character? How many symbolism there are similar between these two? Let's dive in to explore the similarity between Alan Wake and Longlegs. For better context, I will explain this first, in the simplest way I can. Alan Wake is a psychological horror game released by Remedy Entertainment. The game centers on the iconic character Alan Wake, a best-selling crime fiction author suffering from writer's block, traveling to the small town of Bright Falls, Washington, with his wife Alice to get some relaxation and inspiration. They rent a cabin on Cauldron Lake, but things quickly take a dark turn. Alice goes missing, and Alan finds himself entangled in a supernatural mystery where a dark thing is taking over the town and its inhabitants. This dark thing, known as the Dark Presence, is capable of possessing humans, animals, and even objects, turning them into violent Taken that Alan must fight off with light-based weapons such as flashlights and flare guns. Throughout the game, Alan discovers pages of a manuscript for a novel he doesn't remember writing, titled Departure. The manuscript's events begin to come true, providing Alan with clues and warnings about future dangers. Alan learns that the Dark Presence is taking the appearance of an old woman named Barbara Jagger, who wants to use Alan's writing to escape from the Dark Place, a nightmarish dimension beneath Cauldron Lake, outside reality and time. As Alan fights to rescue Alice, he learns that Thomas Zane, a poet who lived in Bright Falls in the 1970s, had also fought the Dark Presence. Zane's actions and Alan's clicker, a light switch that served as a powerful weapon against the darkness, play a crucial role in Alan's battle. In the middle of that, Zane created a doppelganger of Alan called Scratch. In the end, Alan defeats the Dark Presence with the clicker, and then he sacrifices himself to save Alice. He is now trapped in the Dark Place.
It's not a lake. It's an ocean.
Alan, wake up.
Alan Wake 2's story takes place 13 years after the events in the first game. Alan, still trapped in the Dark Place, struggles to escape by writing a horror story involving FBI Special Agent Saga Anderson. Saga is investigating a series of ritualistic murders in Bright Falls, which are linked to Alan's writing and the supernatural occurrences in the town. Saga's journey starts when Alan wrote her into the horror story and changed the reality. As a consequence, people in the town perceive that her daughter, Logan Anderson, died a long time ago. To bring back her daughter, she had to fight the darkness. As Saga delves deeper, she uncovers her own connection to the town's dark history and her family's ties to the supernatural events. She learns that her seer abilities, inherited from her ancestors, allow her to see the changes to reality caused by Alan's writing. Together, Alan and Saga must navigate to the horrors of the Dark Place and the dangers in Bright Falls to stop the Dark Presence with its Herald of Darkness, Mr. Scratch, once and for all. The story of Alan Wake 2 has multiple timelines and very complex narrative loops where Alan's actions in the Dark Place affect the real world and vice versa. The game ends in a climactic battle where Alan and Saga manage to banish the Dark Presence with the help of Alan's wife, Alice.
At last.
Thank you, my love. And so I return. With me I bear the torch of knowledge, the light, the miracle illuminated, the master of two worlds. No, the master of many worlds.
I think that is the simplest way to explain the two Alan Wake games. There's so many details that I didn't mention for the sake of the video, but if you're interested in Alan Wake's complex story, I recommend you to check Gaming University's channel. I personally think he is the person who understands the most of Alan Wake and Remedy Connected Universe's lore and story. You'll be surprised that Alan Wake, or RCU as a whole, has a very strong connection with the 12 Jungian archetypes, Carl Jung's individuation, and very many complex things that I definitely won't explain in this video. I also recommend you to watch Max Derrett's video that dives deeper into the individuation and collective unconscious topics. Longlegs centers on FBI agent Lee Harker, a new recruit assigned to a cold case involving a series of family murder suicides in 1970s Oregon. The crimes are linked by cryptic letters signed Longlegs, a mysterious serial killer. Each victim's family has a 9-year-old daughter born on the 14th, adding some kind of pattern to the case. The narrative begins with a flashback to a young Lee in encountering a pale-faced man ominously hinting at her upcoming birthday. Decades later, Lee, who is suspected of having psychic abilities, is haunted by visions related to the case. Her investigation reveals that the murder involved some references to cult satanism and the devil. Lee discovers that her own mother, Ruth Harker, has a possible connections to these murders. Ruth's involvement is revealed through a sequence of events where Lee finds cryptic symbols and messages linking back to her own childhood. As Lee delves deeper, she confronts her mother about a trespasser who visited on her 9th birthday, a man fitting Longlegs' description. Long story short, Longlegs is captured and brought in for interrogation. Despite his capture, the mystery is still mostly unanswered as Longlegs speaks in some kind of weird satanic rhetoric and mentions a little bit about Lee's mother. After finishing his speech, he slammed his head into a metal table in front of him. Longlegs is dead. Lee went back to her childhood home accompanied by an agent. Lee went inside and the agent outside got shot by Ruth with a shotgun. Lee confronts her mother and discovers her with a doll very similar to young Lee. Ruth shot the doll's head and Lee faints. The climax happened at a birthday party for the daughter of Lee's superior, Agent Carter. Lee's mother attempts to carry out another murder, revealing her complicity in the crimes all along. The story concludes with Lee discovering that the base of operation for Longlegs was in her childhood home. Lee also finished the devil's job by shooting down her own superior and her mother. You definitely have to watch the movie. I won't say that it is super scary, but I can say that it is definitely disturbing. Nicolas Cage, man, what a great actor. The unnerving vibes of Longlegs felt very real and, not gonna lie, I found my hands slightly trembling as the movie ended. There's not much gore in the movie, but the aesthetic and eerie imagery surely will give you chills. Also gotta mention Oz Perkins, really great writer and director. Next up, we will connect things that are similar between Alan Wake and Longlegs. I'm pretty sure that Alan Wake and Longlegs have similar source materials. I know that Alan Wake is inspired by True Detective and Twin Peaks, the heavy narrative, ritualistic stuff, you know. In this interview with Video Games Chronicle, co-director Kyle Rowley and principal narrative designer Molly Maloney, I'm sorry if I butcher those names, mentions the cultural references. The first game was compared endlessly to things like Stephen King novels and Twin Peaks. Is there a specific film or literary influence for this game? I'd say True Detective comes up a lot. Yeah, I mean, we have many different references, and it's interesting because me and Sam and Jan and the narrative team, obviously we all have our favorite different media that we like to consume. But when we were thinking about introducing a new character and we knew that we wanted to have FBI agents investigating these ritualistic serial killings, there were some certain TV shows and movies that we were definitely like, okay, they did this really well. So the slow burn nature and the kind of buddy cop scenario that True Detective Season 1 had is there, and those kind of ritualistic serial killings were definitely on our mind. But then, also, just from an art directions perspective, we are very influenced, especially on Saga's experience, by the Coen brothers and Fargo. A lot of our art direction is grounded a bit more on the 90s side, so things like Seven are things we've talked about quite a lot. And then the timey-wimey supernatural paradox stuff with the variety of symbols is inspired by Twin Peaks. I won't dive too deep into the Twin Peaks references in the Alan Wake game series, but if you want to explore all of the cultural references, you should check this website. It's reference to The Twilight Zone, Twin Peaks, Lost, The Shining, Stephen King, H.P. Lovecraft, and so much more is explained on this website. For Longlegs, I found some articles and posts about its source material. This article describes some key points to the similarities between Longlegs and Twin Peaks. Its dark themes, surreal and dreamlike elements, mysterious deaths and investigations, the atmosphere and David Lynch influence on Longlegs. What I found interesting is that in these interviews, both Alan Wake and Longlegs mentioned Seven. While Alan Wake only took the inspiration for the art direction, Longlegs borrowed part of the plot and put a little twist in it. Killing off Longlegs before the ending of the movie is such a surprising moment. Did you ever plan to have him stick around longer? We were consciously aware of our references and we wanted to create a pop art piece. As many times we would crib or steal a move from one of the great serial killer movies, we wanted to do it. That's just Seven. I think Kevin Spacey has 3 or 4 scenes, right? He gives himself up, he's in the thing, and then he's in the car, and there's the end. He's always present, which we had with Cage 2, like there's a presence of this thing, but once you get to the guy, it's almost anticlimactic. Of course, he becomes very climactic in 7, but I love the fact that John Doe gave himself up. We wanted to sort of rip off, is not the right word, borrow is more close to what we were doing. I also found this interesting Reddit post explaining about Longlegs' connection to Twin Peaks. The main character, Lee Harker, is an FBI agent that is tasked with finding the Longlegs serial killer. This FBI character has somewhat psychic abilities that points her in the direction of finding the killer. The Longlegs serial killer is akin to Bob in the way he feeds Satan the family of girls labeled the birthday murders. Satan manifests its power in the form of metal balls that are placed in the porcelain doll heads. Longlegs and Co. give this doll to families. The doll holds a lock on the girls' minds. The interrogation scene is very similar to when Leland is caught and the death of Leland. It's more gruesome than Leland's death, though with the Longlegs character killing himself at the table. The poster also quotes a Radio Times article. As to the film's exploration of evil, there's something about the feelings it evoked that reminded me of some of the work of David Lynch. Although stylistically different, The way evil is presented almost as a supernatural entity, which is nonetheless rooted in the everyday, brought to mind Twin Peaks' Bob, instilling a similarly chilling feeling of sadness and helplessness. Both Alan Wake II in this case, and Longlegs have very interesting characters. Just like other stories, the two have identical archetypes. For example, the hero archetype, the protagonist in the story, Lee Harker and Saga Anderson. The villain archetype, the antagonist in the story, Mr. Scratch with the dark presence, and Longlegs with the devil. If you look at the plot, it is very similar. You can put it like this. An FBI agent with psychic power investigates a cult murder case. The culprit left cryptic notes directed to her. The people who got some kind of psychic powers are called para-utilitarian in the Remedy Connected Universe, or mostly in the game Control. It is the thing that made me connect these two characters so much. The plot foundation is basically the same for both Alan Wake 2 and Longlegs, but as the story goes, both plots expand in their own direction. Also, let's look at Longlegs' The Devil and Alan Wake's The Dark Presence's influence in the story. The Devil expanded its control using Longlegs as his pawn. Longlegs created many dolls with some kind of steel orb, inside each doll's head. Longlegs disguised the dolls as a church gift and sent them to all the homes that he targets. The dolls directed to the kid in the house, but the devil's influence through the doll affects all of the family members in the household. Also, gotta mention this for a bit, the doll in Longlegs is probably a reference to this one in Twin Peaks. In a similar fashion, the Dark Presence expanded its control in Bright Falls using Alan Wake as its pawn, but you can say it uses Barbara Jagger as its pawn, just like Ruth Harker in Longlegs, in not quite the same way. In the first game, you can see Alan Wake lost his consciousness after he dived into the lake, and then he woke up in a car crash with no memory of how he got there. In those unknown times, he got controlled by the Dark Presence and wrote a novel, which he planned to write, but the Dark Presence turned it into a horror story. That novel, or manuscripts that he wrote, controls reality, so that the Dark Presence can control people in the town and it could escape from the dark place. In Alan Wake, the people who got controlled by the Dark Presence are called the Taken. The Taken are the remnants of people fully possessed by the Dark Presence. They are essentially mindless puppets that exist only to fight and serve the Dark Presence. That quote-unquote people who got controlled by the darkness thing is also present in Longlegs. I don't know exactly what to call them in the movie, but what I know is they got controlled after receiving the doll. The control got stronger until a week later, when usually the father of the house kills all of the family members. It is very interesting to see that both have the same concept of the characters. They are not so far off from each other. The visual. Longlegs, just wow. I don't know how to put it. I'm not full with cinematography knowledge, but I can say that it is very pleasing to the eye. Got that mysterious 90s color grading too. I was in awe at the cinema. I don't know if you could compare it with A24 movies, but Longlegs definitely can compete. I'm a big fan of A24 too, but Longlegs amazes me. Alan Wake, on the other hand, specifically Alan Wake 2, has a variety of visuals: cinematic, classic, surreal, and many more. With the trophy of Best Art Direction in the Game Awards 2023, Alan Wake 2's stunning visual is absolutely the highlight of the game. Other than the narrative, which also wins the trophy, but that's not what I want to talk about. You see, if you already played Alan Wake 2 before watching Longlegs, I bet you can pinpoint which scene has the same visual between the two. This one, for example. When I saw this scene, I went, wait a minute, a wooden cabin with 2 windows, both in the attic? Seems very familiar. In Longlegs, this place is very crucial because it is the first time Lee and Carter found the doll made by Longlegs for Carrie and Camera, one of Longlegs' victims. The Alan Wake one is very important too, because that's the place where Alan created those novels, manuscripts, or else. This exact place exists in both the real world and the dark place. Next one. I'm pretty sure Alan Wake fans would scream if they notice a small reference like this typewriter in the movie, or maybe it's just me. Now, I'm not sure if the movie mentions anything about Lee and this typewriter. Please comment down below if you notice anything about this, or maybe I'm missing something. Next. This one is special to me. Alan Wake 2 opens and ends with the same scene. Like I mentioned earlier in Alan Wake 2's story summary, Alan and Saga manage to banish the dark presence by shooting Alan's head. Seeing the exact thing happen in Longlegs is definitely not the thing that I would expect at all. Not quite the same reason, but still, basically the same scene. Next one. This one is interesting. In Longlegs, Lee does this in real life and is guided by her quote-unquote psychic power, of course. Meanwhile, Saga is doing this in her head. She called it the mind place. It is some kind of a mental construct used by her to analyze clues, profile suspects, and piece together everything. Saga also has the ability to see the truth of people when doing the profiling. And while Lee's psychic power revealed at the end that it's all the devil's doing, Saga's para-utilitarian abilities came from her relation with Nordic mythology, Thor and Odin Anderson, as you may know. Also, she is most likely Mr. Thor's daughter. I'll explain about Mr. Thor later. Next. This one's pretty basic because both characters are FBI agents, just slightly different color tones. Next. Next one. Red imagery is a recurring theme in Longlegs. I'm pretty sure it represents evil or the devil's control inside their minds. It is a theme too in Alan Wake 2. The deep red is mostly used in the place called the Overlap.
The reality-changing influence of the dark place flowed like water flowed, like fear flowed, down the path of least resistance, eroding the weak spots until they cracked. In places where reality was more yielding, where story told and retold, imagination sparked and fear ignited again and again, had softened the walls of reality. Sites of violence and tragedy, where truth was laced with fiction, where a work of art proposed an alternative narrative, something people could suspect to be true, something people felt strongly about, something they feared. An overlap of the dark place needed a push from both directions to manifest itself. Reality in our world eroded by repeated dark lore tied to a location, and a counterpoint, A work of art, a horror narrative crafted in the depths of the dark place, connecting to the story on the other side to reach out through the weakened veil.
In Longlegs' image flashes, there's one scene that stood out to me. The fluid or liquid paint visual thingy. I'm gonna explain another game a little bit. Before Alan Wake 2 came out, Remedy Entertainment released a game in 2019 which exists in the same universe as Alan Wake, named Control. Control basically follows the character of Jesse Faden, a para-utilitarian too, who arrives at the Federal Bureau of Control, FBC, in New York City, seeking answers about her kidnapped brother, Dylan. The FBC operates within the oldest house, a constantly shifting skyscraper hiding supernatural phenomena. Jesse discovers that the bureau is under attack by a paranatural force called the Hiss, which possesses its employees. The Hiss, the enemy in this game, is some kind of an interdimensional entity or force that possesses and corrupts people, transforming them into violent entities. The Hiss spreads through a resonance, a sort of paranatural frequency. The imagery that portrays the Hiss's presence is the same as that red liquid paint thingy. Okay, since I mentioned Hiss and Control, I want to mention this very quickly. After I watched Longlegs, I'm scrolling through Reddit for some explanation and hidden meanings of the ending, but then I found this. A vinyl with cryptic texts, just like in the movie. Then someone decrypted it. It's called Hiss by Sister Destroyer. I kid you not, I screamed when I saw this. Hiss? Is this like a direct reference? I don't know, but I feel happy, for real. If you have anything to explain about this vinyl, please leave a comment. I'm very interested to know what's the lore behind this, his name. And by the way, there's a new video uploaded by Neon titled Fire 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 Hiss, a song from Longlegs. I believe that this is the same song as Hiss by Sister Destroyer, but without the muddy part of it. I see that they simply changed the title or the band name, but I don't know the reason why. The description simply says, the last known musical recording by Del Ferdinand Koppel, before the voices took over. Koppel is Longlegs, by the way. He was a glam rock guy who got quote-unquote recruited by the devil. The settings are mostly mentioned in the visual part, but yeah, they both do have some similar locations. Dark tone with forest environment, simple road with trees, wooden cabin in the middle of the forest. All of them are unique and visually beautiful. I mentioned so many things about the supernatural elements of each one in the chapters before. Maybe what's left is the supernatural direction that I thought Longlegs would go. Alan Wake's supernatural elements lean more into the non-religious theme. I don't know if I can say that it is more science-themed. For example, like reality alteration, parallel timelines, places outside time and reality, alternate reality, variants, and many things that I don't remember. For me, it's very complicated that you are so curious about the meaning of it all. Same but different in Longlegs. The story leans more into the heavy religion theme. There's so many biblical references that mentioned. I don't know many things about the Bible, by the way. I'm not a Christian. The lore is so deep that you're interested to learn the hidden meaning of the story. Both are fascinating. The symbols used in both Alan Wake and Longlegs are quite similar. The one that stood out from the movie is definitely the Longlegs cipher. I didn't know until I wrote the script that someone made a Longlegs cipher website. Sometimes it doesn't work, but it is good enough if you want to translate something from the movie or the ARG. Other than that, Longlegs is mostly uses biblical references throughout the movie, like the inverted triangle they got from opening the book titled 9 Circles of Hell, which is based on Dante's Inferno. Now, I'm not gonna touch that because, like what I said earlier, I don't understand much of it, so I'm gonna skip this. If you know much more about the references, please leave a comment. In Alan Wake 2, a cult called Cult of the Tree uses this triangle too. There's 2 variants. The first one is 2 upwards triangles on top of each other. The second one is 2 downward triangles side by side. Earlier in the Longlegs movie, another inverted triangle appears in the test scene. In the test, Lee said "father" to describe this downward triangle. This probably references the father figure that mostly did the killings in all of Longlegs' family murder cases. When I saw this, I thought this one is very similar to what's being used in Control. This is the board. The board is a mysterious and powerful entity in the game Control. It exists within the astral plane and is depicted as a pyramid-shaped paranatural presence that communicates in cryptic messages. The board oversees and guides the FBC and plays a pivotal role in selecting the bureau's director. When Jesse Faden picks up the service weapon and becomes the new director, it is the board that grants this authority upon her. I found this interesting Reddit post from 5 years ago. This picture hints at the overall plot of Control, that is, invading or attacking the board and taking control of the oldest house. All of these, triangle and other symbols are a theme of Alan Wake, Control, and any other Remedy games. Anyways, another image that I'm familiar with also appeared in the scene. Lee said "door" to describe this image. This one probably references the locked door between Lee's childhood house and Longlegs' lair. In Alan Wake, there's a character called Mr. Door. In Alan Wake 2, Mr. Door, whose full name is Warlin Door, is a unique and mysterious character who plays a significant role in the game's narrative. He is an interdimensional entity who can traverse between alternate realities, existing simultaneously in all of them. It is not confirmed yet that he is Saga's father, but it is most likely that he is her father. The door's symbolism in Alan Wake and Longlegs serves the same purpose, as a gate or a passage between 2 places, or in Alan Wake's case, many places. I feel like both Alan Wake and Longlegs have their own special things. Both of them are definitely enjoyable, but I'm gonna say that I enjoy Alan Wake more because of the complex story, the depth of the characters, psychology, and so much more. That doesn't mean that Longlegs lacks that kind of stuff, but simply Alan Wake is in my cup of tea. That's it. Also, I haven't even mentioned the amazing Night Springs DLC. It is very great. And that puts Longlegs below Alan Wake in my list. I also want to apologize if this video kind of a mess. My audio is somewhat clipping and there's noises and everything. It is a mess. But you know, it's my first video essay. If you check my YouTube videos, it is all music. A change? Maybe. I don't know. I enjoy making music and meme videos, but I just felt this wonderful feeling of creating a video essay and explaining things that it's in your interests. It feels amazing. My English is also kind of messy since it is not my first language. I live in Indonesia, as you know, and you definitely know that Indonesian people at least speak 2 or 3 languages. English is just happened to be my third language. Again, nothing is perfect in this video, so I'm asking you for constructive feedback in the comments below. Tell me anything. Maybe I missed something, or maybe you have a different opinion on the topics. Feel free to comment. Okay, the last thing I want to mention before ending the video, please check out Jessica Lee's video that explains about the same topics as this video. I looked on YouTube if someone made a video that's similar to my essay, and I found this video. It is hilarious. I love it. And thank you all for watching. Thank you very much, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.